While this workshop is not specific to first steps, a brief review might be appropriate. Many referrals to early childhood special education starting at age 3 come from first steps. If you're interested in further information about first steps, you're directed to the link that's on this slide. The information of significance to educators is that a medical diagnosis of autism is sufficient for services under first steps. Not so for early childhood special education. After the 3rd birthday, the child must either meet eligibility criteria for services under the autism label as outlined by the Missouri Department of Education, or be determined to be a child with a developmental delay as outlined by the Missouri Department of Education. Another important point is that while participation of families in the determination of services in early childhood special education is always appropriate, educators and family members need to understand that there is a different emphasis in first steps and in early childhood special education. First steps is a family-centered service, while early childhood special education services focus on the child's educational needs with less emphasis on services to the family.
Early childhood special education teams may receive referrals from a variety of sources. Some of these include families, first steps, medical providers, parents as teachers, daycare providers, or other agencies and screeners. Information gained from these sources and others may provide helpful insights, especially in the areas of developmental history and social development. Please refer to the link at the top of the slide for information about early childhood special education services. There are 2 options for eligibility determination at age 3. The school district may opt to identify a child as eligible under the category of young child with a developmental delay, or YCDD, or under one of the other eligibility categories, including autism. To receive services under YCDD eligibility, the child must score at or below 1.5 standard deviations or equivalent levels of the mean in 2 areas, or at or below 2 standard deviations of the mean or equivalent levels in 1 area of development. The child must need special education and related services. Areas of development that can be used to determine eligibility include physical, cognitive, communication, social-emotional, or adaptive behavior. Under the categorical criteria for autism, the child must demonstrate evidence in 2 mandated areas and may demonstrate evidence in 2 associated areas. The mandated areas are disturbances in speech, language, cognitive, and nonverbal communication. The state plan says the child displays abnormalities that extend beyond speech to many aspects of the communication process. Communicative language may be absent, or if present, language may lack communicative intent. Characteristics may involve both deviance and delay. There is a deficit in the capacity to use language for social communication, both receptively and expressively. Disturbances of the capacity to relate appropriately to people, events, or objects is the second mandated criteria. The state plan says the child displays abnormalities in relating to people, objects, and events. There is a deficit in the capacity to form relationships with people. The capacity to use objects in an age-appropriate or functional manner may be absent, arrested, or delayed. The child may seek consistency in environmental events to the point of exhibiting rigidity in routines. While documentation in the associated areas listed on the slide is not mandated in Missouri, we at Project Access feel this is important additional information. Many children with autism spectrum disorder demonstrate unusual development. There may be unusual strengths and weaknesses. For example, a child may decode the written word very early but not comprehend what he reads. A child who has been nonverbal all of a sudden speaks in full sentences. Another child can't hold a crayon or manipulate knobs on toys but can balance on a narrow beam. Disturbances may be between areas, such as with a child who has very well developed academics but cannot engage with peers, or disturbances may be within areas, such as with our reading example. It is certainly possible to have a sensory processing disorder and not be eligible for services under the label of autism, but it is unusual to see a child with autism who does not struggle with sensory issues. Children may be hyper or hypo-responsive to sensory information. They may seek sensory input in unusual ways. Behavioral challenges may be based in sensory disturbances. It is important to address these issues so that our children are regulated and available to profit from instruction.
It is important to describe how autism affects the child's educational performance. This is not limited to academics only. Children with autism will have significant social difficulties that impact their ability to play with others, work collaboratively, and participate in daily routines. We must also rule out emotional disturbance. Let's listen to Terry and Edna talking about this difference.